Good day, everyone. Let's get started. Welcome to the second series of the Let's Talk Africa webinar series. Let me introduce myself. My name is Molla Hunaynyaw, a statistician from Statistical Development, Data Innovation, and Outreach section of the African Center for Statistics. Moderating this session today is this exciting session. As I have a passion in technology and innovation for data. My area of focus are the use of ICT and innovation to improve the efficiency of statistical production processes, to improve on quality and timeliness of data, data science, and alternative data sources for official statistics and data dissemination. The Stats Talk Africa webinar series, as you all know, is a monthly series organized by the African Center for Statistics of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa to demystify some data concepts. This is the second series, colleagues. We are trying to share knowledge and bring statistics literacy to the community. This second series will explore emerging abilities of large language models, I think you all know, and their potential application to ECA work, in particular economic statistics and implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. As some may call it, AI is the new electricity. It will transform every industry and touch upon all walks of our lives. A large language model is a type of artificial intelligence, AI, as I said, that uses machine learning techniques and huge data sets to understand, summarize, generate, and predict new contents. There are several LLMs, large language models like GPT-3, GPT-4, from OpenAI. You may have heard of this. Llama from Meta, Palm from Google. They are good at coding, which is resonates to me a lot. Advanced reasoning, summarize, translate, predict, and so on and so forth. You can see these keywords resonate with statistics very, very well. Like predict, summarize, generate. I think these are the terms we use in statistics. Let me leave the speakers today to tell us more about these topics. According to the agenda item, we'll have a welcoming remark from our director, Oliver Chingania, director of the African Center for Statistics at the ECA. But before I give him the floor, I kindly request all participants to keep your microphone on mute until we open the floor for questions and answers and discussions. You may actually type your comments and questions on the chat box. In doing so, we appreciate you provide your name, your position, and institutions you are from. And colleagues, we are also ask you to respond to the webinar evaluation at the end of the talk. Thank you very much for joining us and for your cooperation. So I would like to give the floor to Mr. Oliver Chingania, Director of the African Center for Statistics, to give us welcoming remark. Oliver, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mola. Thank you so much. And also you've said quite a lot of what I wanted to say, but I won't put it in context. First, let me welcome everyone that has joined us on this series of the Stats Talk Africa. This really the main objective, some of it have already been said by Mola. We are trying to demystify some of the statistical terms and jargon, some of which have just become buzzwords, being used, sometimes even without context, without meaning. We're also trying to see if we can provide a space for dialogue about data statistics, innovative tools with data experts and users. But specifically, this session serves really as a knowledge sharing and exchange platform, demystifying and promote greater understanding of statistical concepts and alternative data sources that could be harnessed in the African context. So the Statistics Talk Africa, which in abbreviation call it Stats Talk Africa sessions, we also want to invite other experts, not just from ECA, but those from ECA, of course, from member states. We want to also get development partners from the academia, from different areas, those that are associated with data or statistical elements. So so far we have lined up a number of series up to the end of the year. We have a full calendar between now and the end of the year, but of course we will accommodate some of them to come in, even in between. We just had one 2 weeks ago. So if we get one in between, we may be having it fortnightly, but for now it's fully booked up to the end of the year, both from ECA, but even from outside, even from the academia. Some of the colleagues who are connected here from North America, for instance, they'll put us through contact. Zubiri, for instance, has put us in contact with others that will also be willing to come and talk to us. So what we want to talk about really is like the one that is coming up in the next couple of 2 weeks from now is on geospatial big data and geospatial data science and geointelligence. So that will be another very exciting session that will be on the 27th of this month of June. And we could have another one if one of you demands that it is one interesting one. We could fit one in between. That's one. So I would like to invite all of you to consider giving presentation on different subjects. For instance, carbon markets, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. People are questioning, is it a myth or is it a reality? I think we should have a conversation around that. Issues about accelerating and rescuing SDGs, data availability, that's another question. The question about data gaps, is it real or is a question that maybe needs to be done at country level? So these are some of the things that we would like to talk about going forward around the realms of this particular session. But today is different. Today, the Stats Talk Africa session is entitled Emerging Abilities of Large Language Models such as the ChatGPT and their potential applications in ECA's work. We all know that our ability to learn and adapt is of paramount importance as we navigate through the era of rapid technological advancement. In this session, we'll explore large language models which have the potential to revolutionize many aspects of our lives. Large language models, as you have heard from Mola, are the latest models birthed from the field of artificial intelligence. Trained and vast troves of text data from the internet, these models employ sophisticated algorithms to predict, generate human language. Ultimately, the result is a system that is taught to answer questions, write essays, write codes, but sometimes write theory, poetry, for instance. Even though there seems to be a great deal of diversity between these applications, they're all united by a common thread, the capability to process, to comprehend, and generate language at a scale and speed beyond the capacity of human beings. So why is this important for us in the realm of economic policy, particularly us at ECA in economic policy and also official statistics, to be aware of these kinds of models? Why do we need to know for us in ECA, but of course beyond just ECA? So I think that the answer really lies in the potential they hold of enhancing our work. With the complexity and urgency of today's economic challenges, it is more essential that even ever before, we are able to gather insights of our economic and statistical data in order to tackle these challenges ahead on. By leveraging large language models, we can automate and improve many aspects of our data processing analysis. They can sift through mountains of reports, track trends, predict future patterns, and assist in drafting insightful policies. That's the power of this, what you're going to hear this afternoon. There are many ways in which large language models can be used to assist us in making economic policy decisions. They can process abundance of data to deliver nuanced insights about the economy, assisting us in making informed decisions. Whether it is analyzing patterns of inflation, studying labor market trends, or predicting economic impacts of environment studies, these models can provide valuable input. By doing so, they can enhance our capacity to draft policies that are robust, inclusive, and beneficial to people from all strata of society. So these models can be utilized also for future statistics, as already alluded by Mola, as a way of improving our data quality, accelerating the process of raw data, and ultimately delivering more timely statistical reports because of improving data quality. By automating the interpretation of complex data sets, we can minimize human error and enhance accuracy of statistical products. In addition, these models can be able to assist in identifying data anomalies in our data sets, which will allow us to maintain integrity of them in the long run. However, despite these promising capabilities that I've talked about, it is crucial to approach this new technology with informed prudence. And this is why I want to have this conversation. It is important to note that large language models are associated with important ethical and society concerns. Among these issues are those pertaining to privacy, misuse, and potential of propagation of biases based on the training data itself. The economic and employment implications of automation must also be considered. It is our responsibility as we harness the potential of these models to address these challenges and ensure that the benefits of these models are shared equitably among all its participants. So today we will learn not just about this groundbreaking technology, but also to discuss how we can responsibly integrate it in our ECA work, not to just benefit the African continent, but also for the betterment of the global worldwide. I believe that this is a great opportunity for us to foster dialogue, to exchange ideas, and to chart a path in the future. As we prepare to explore the capacity of large language models, let us also reflect on how we can leverage these tools to deliver more effective policies, accurate statistics, and timely to save our societies. So why are we here today, colleagues? First of all, we want to have a deeper understanding, as Mola has said, of the large language models and their potential to revolutionize the macroeconomic analysis, environmental economics, and further the promotion of the sustainable development goals. But secondly, today what you are going to hear from a very eminent panels. These are some of them are professors from the universities, and they're in the data science field. They'll be able to share with us and examine how these models can sparse complex economic reports, identify trends, and generate forecasts, thereby providing macroeconomic researchers with valuable insights. By providing better understanding of economic complexity, they can also assist government, economists, and policymakers in making informed decisions. So, without further delay, let us hear this intellectual journey that we have started ourselves. So, just want to wish ourselves good deliberation, but also very rich and insightful discussion that we are going to have this afternoon. I thank you, Mola, and over to you.
Thank you, Oliver, for this comprehensive welcoming introduction, I would call it, to the webinar series. You touched upon the various workflows of statistical production processes. But without much ado, let me welcome our speakers today. We have Isufu Saidu Sanda, statistician from the African Center for Statistics. He is one of our senior statisticians who has keen interest in technology, innovation, and data science. He will introduce himself later. And we have also two speakers from the academia, Dr. Adisu and Dr. Ashanafi. I have allocated 30 minutes for the presentation by Yusufu, and I will also give the floor to both panelists, 10 minutes each. I will be asking them questions, a couple of questions to respond to. Then I'll open the floor for question and answer and discussion to the audience. Yusufu, I'll give you 30 minutes. Please take us through what large language models and their potential applications to ECA in general, and economic statistics and the SDGs in particular. Over to you, Yusufu.
Thank you, Mola. So I hope I will be able to do this in the 30 minutes because there is so much to say about
your
large
best.
language models. So do you see my screen?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so let's try to. I have already recorded it. Okay, so the director and Mala have already introduced the issue of large language models. So I will try to go a little fast just to see the history of what we call large language model. This is the only technical part, I promise. So at the beginning, people were trying to use deep learning to understand the structure of text, and they were using what we used to call recurrent neural networks. Recurrent neural network are just deep learning models that we use to try to see the structure of text. But it was not very efficient because it was difficult to parallelize the computation. So later on, there is something that they call attention. Attention is a new mechanism that improves neural network. And then when they were doing further research from Google, it's in 2017 that some researchers from Google, they made a very important discovery because they discovered that actually there is no need to add the attention mechanism to recurrent neural network. You could just use attention only, and you will have very efficient neural networks. So they created a new architecture that we call the transformer. I think everybody who heard about the large neural network, he heard about what we call transformer. And what is the advantage of the transformer? With the transformer, you can do parallel computation. And when you can do parallel computation, you can have very large neural networks. So this is how the development of this very large language model started. Now that you have the transformer, we have started applying it in very large model, and it has started having state-of-the-art performance. So there are a lot of tasks that used to be done by other models that the transformer is now doing much better. Okay, I think my presentation is going a little too fast. So let's come back to what large language models are. And as here, it is a demonstration of what they can do and the fact that they can do more than you think. I'm going to start by asking large language model itself to tell us what large language model is. So it is the first demonstration of the capabilities of large language models. So let's just give a few seconds for the video to come at the right place. So now we are going to ask ChatGPT to tell us what large language models are, and you will see what he is going to reply to us. So I have asked a question. We are having a webinar about large language model. Tell us what large language models are and why there is so much excitement about large language models. So now I'm going to put it in PowerPoint so that it's easier to see. This is a question that I asked the GPT for, and this is the answer. So there are AI models that were developed to understand and generate human language. I think this is the most important. They were trained to understand the structure of human language and to do what we call text completion. And they have grown dramatically because there is increasing computational power. There are growing data sets. We have more and more data on the internet, as you know. And then there are innovative algorithms. I already talked about the algorithms that we call the transformer. And all the excitement come from what the director said. They are doing things that are really amazing because they can improve natural language interface for software. They can help make technology more accessible and intuitive. They are revolutionizing education. There are so many areas where we had models that were good, but when the transformer came and the large language models, they did even better. So everybody is amazed by the capabilities of a large language model, but of course we need to be cautious. We need to be cautious because there is also danger. With any technology, we need to know how we are using it. We know there are ethical concerns, there are issues related to privacy, and particularly for us statisticians, we know how privacy is important and how the misuse of data is something which is in our mandate. So we should be cautious how we are going to use the large language models. So here, we are going to show a map of the different large language models that are emerged. You see in this map on the right, all the large language models that are developed. It is moving very, very fast. It is moving very fast. And every week, almost every week, you will see that there is a new model coming, and they are really amazing. So now you are going to show what large language model can do so that you understand that they can do much more than just conversations. This is the demystifying. Large language model are not just for conversation. So here I'm asking a very simple question. As an economist, there is a war going on in one country, and we are worried about the impact on another country. So I'm asking the large language model, please tell me what are the different channels through which this war in this country can impact prices. And you see what the model is outputting, because it has digested so much information, so it can split it in the form of text. But because I want it in a structured way, now I'm asking it to put it. Let me slow my video a little. I know I'm going to go beyond the time. So now I am asking it to build what we call a knowledge graph. I will explain later why knowledge graphs are so important. But when you have this kind of knowledge, generally you want it in the form of knowledge. This is the cause, this is the effect, this is the cause, this is the effect. So if I ask it to split it into cause and effect, and it has done it. You see how fast it has done it. Now what I'm going to try to do is to ask the large language model, now that I have the cause and effect, is it possible to build a graph that can visualize that knowledge graph? And we all know that ChatGPT is a text language, so it doesn't have access to computational, normally it doesn't have access to statistical software, but it can still give me the code that I can use if I want to visualize a network. So this is now what I'm going to ask ChatGPT to do. Let me speed a little. So here I told the large language model, I would like to see it in a graph. Can you give me the R code and see what is happening now? So you see ChatGPT is not just for text. It is capable of writing R code. You can ask it, I want to do this. Give the R statistical software, please give me the code, and it is going to try to give you the code because it has learned through all the documents that it has read through the internet. It has learned somehow how to do coding. So you can see it is telling me this code. It will give me the graph. So I am now going to test just to make sure that is the code really working, because you need to make sure. You never know. You know that large language model, they say they have tendency to hallucinate, which is making up things that that are not true actually, because they are good instructors. So sometimes they just continue the structure and give you something that is credible, but that is not true. So now I'm copying the code and I am going into RStudio just to pass the code and see if the code that was given to me by ChatGPT is really a code that can give me a knowledge graph. So let's see what is going to happen now. It's very interesting. We are already beyond the capacity of the large language models that people know, because I think that is just a conversational assistant. But no, it knows very well structured language, and it can do programming in various languages. So here it is writing some R code. So now I have copied the program that was given by me by ChatGPT, and I'm running it. So far it is working. It is downloading the different package. You know, in R, when you are running a program, you start by downloading the different packages. So package successfully checked, unpacked, everything. So far so good. So now you see the code that was given to me by ChatGPT, there was an error. There was an error. So now I'm going to copy the code error, and I'm going to tell ChatGPT the code that you gave me has a bug. Can you try to understand the error and correct the code? So let's see. We are just talking to it like you talk to a normal person to see if it can understand the error code and retry to write the program. Please correct the code. And now it's saying I apologize for the error. It seems that add edge function doesn't accept from. So it has understood the error, and now it is saying, I am going to revise the code to take into account that bug. So let's see if now it's going to give us the right code. It is thinking a lot. You know, it's a language model that has billions and billions of parameters. So really, it can understand something very fast and adapt very fast to new situations. This is why it sounds almost like human. Now it is writing the code. It is even suggesting which libraries I can use if I want to see this as a knowledge graph. This is very powerful. For programmers, this is really game-changing because now you have a bot that understands code. It can understand the error and tell you where the error is in your code, and this is what you can do to correct it. So now I am pasting the new code in R, still to test the large language model. And let's see, you see, this time it worked fine. And I have my knowledge graph in R. So you see, even though ChatGPT doesn't have access to R, it can still write the code that I can take, put it in R. And now you see these are the relations through which the word here, it can increase security costs, and then it will come to prices, or through investment, through trade, through socio-political factors, and so on and so on. So you can see already the power of large language model, or what we call the emergent properties, because when we say we train them to complete text, so how did they learn to code? This is a mystery, and this is something we will talk about a little later. We call it an emergent property because it's not something that we plan, but we discovered that they have learned how to do some coding in R. So why are knowledge graph interesting? Knowledge graph are interesting because they are special neural networks that we call graph neural networks that we can use on a knowledge graph, and then we can do all kind of algorithms like entity relationships, so understanding how different things are linked between each other. This is something you can do with the knowledge graph. You can do what you call causal inference, so discover cause and effect relationship. You can do hierarchy and importance. You can do information compilation, pattern recognition, predictive analysis, and even recommendation system. So you can imagine that if you have the knowledge that is produced by ECA, if we transform into the knowledge graph, and then we run some graph neural network on this knowledge, we will get something very powerful. This is a very interesting application of knowledge graph. It's good to know that now they are doing some drug discoveries using knowledge graph, because they take the molecules, they model them as knowledge graph, and then the neural network can understand the way the molecule are linked, how the properties can come from the way they are linked, and then it can tell you if you have this form of molecule, it's going to cure these diseases. So it's really amazing what they are doing. And all this is deep learning. So I'm just showing it to illustrate the power of knowledge graph. But for the case of ECA, we are an economic commission. Maybe what is interesting for us is to build what we call a theory of change. You know, we are trying to intervene in countries. There are other actors intervening. There are a lot of cause and effects. So there are a lot of connections that we can try to understand through knowledge graph. We can also do link inference, where we can discover new relations, new economic relations that we didn't know because we didn't try them. But the knowledge graph can tell us that I think there should be some relation between this and that. Can you test it? And when you test it, you will discover that it's true. There was a relation. So this is a very powerful application of knowledge graph. And here I have also added some tests on how you can build knowledge graph using a tool that we call, I think it's a Graph GPT, where you can just pass your text and it will generate a knowledge graph for you. This is also a large language model that is doing the work behind. This is ChatGPT actually. So let's see. You see, I have just passed the text, and now I have a knowledge graph telling me the relation between the entities. I have this entity, I have this relation. But this video, I have got it in the interest of time because I know I don't have a lot of time. But you have a graph that you can manipulate. So you see, you can transform text. We went from text, which is unstructured, to a knowledge graph, which is considered as something already more structured than text. So this is something that you find online. It's open source also, so you can try it online or you can download it and run it yourself if you know how to do the coding. You can take any text, you put it, they will ask ChatGPT to transform it into a knowledge graph, and then you have your knowledge graph, and now you can do whatever inference or whatever reasoning or whatever aggregation you want to do with this knowledge, because now it is in the form of a correlation. And this is a very, very powerful structure. So you can see this library. This one is flexible because it's JavaScript. So you can even interact. So if you add some code, you can even change the color, add some new links, and then export it and do some reasoning using what we call a graph neural network. So this is something also very powerful. This is something powerful. We are going from text that used to be very complicated to something that is very structured that we can now take and put into mathematical, like system dynamics model, for example. When you have this relation, you can put it into a system dynamic model, then it is going to do simulation for you for the SDGs. Like when we are trying to find what you call the SDG accelerators, we were using this kind of graph and trying to do some system dynamics to see where you can act to have the maximum impact for the lowest cost, because this is important for SDG. We need to know where we can act with the little funds that we have to have the maximum impact on poverty, on well-being, on all these kind of things. So this is the power of knowledge graphs. Okay, there are a lot of examples on how you can generate some knowledge graph using text. This is another capability of the large language models. Let me try to accelerate it a little. So now we have seen that the ChatGPT could understand R code. Now we are going to challenge it to build what we call a computable general equilibrium model using games. Games is a program that is used for building computable general equilibrium model. It's called General Algebraic Modeling System. So I am asking it, I want a games code of a computable general equilibrium model for seeing the impact of the crisis on poverty. And this is what it is telling me. So for those who understand modeling, you can it is explaining what it is, and now it is giving me the code. So you see, it knows R. Now it also knows how to write a game code, even though it is saying this is a very simple model. If I want a more complex model, I need to tune it and to see an expert. But still, you can see that large language models are very powerful. They do much more than what people think they can do. So it gives me the price equation, the model, and then it is explaining me now if I want to solve the model, this is what I should pay attention to. Sorry if I'm going fast because it's a long video and I have only 30 minutes. But I just want you to get the idea of what you can do with a large language model. So now I'm going to ask it to do CGE again, but now using GTAP, because GTAP is another software that is used a lot for doing simulations. So I just want to know, it knows R, it knows games. Does it know how to run a program in GTAP? As you can see, at least it knows what GTAP is. It is explaining what it is. But what I would like is really to get the code, because I want to use GPT-4 as a coding assistant. Let me accelerate it. So when I asked the question first, it didn't want to give me the code. So I had to insist, give me the code so that it's really give me the jumper code. And you see, now it is also outputting the code. So you can imagine a programmer that understands almost all languages. It understands French, English, and Spanish and so on, but even in programming language, it seems to understand all the different programming language, which is another very amazing capability of a large language model that can be very useful for economists who are running models. And you know that the models, they learn very fast. So even if it is a cumbersome at the beginning, it will become very good in 6 months, or in 1 year, you will be surprised to see what it is capable of doing. So now it has given me the GTAP. Let's see something else. Now I'm going to talk about what we call the zero-shot learning ability of a large language model. So zero-shot means you don't need to give the large language model any example. You are just going to give it a problem. So I'm giving it a problem like this, which is a little complicated for a program because it's just a text compilation. So I'm giving the population, I'm giving the growth rate, I'm giving the number of people living per month, and then I want you to make a projection on population. So let's see if it is capable of understanding the problem and solving it correctly. And during it is going to use also a plugin, which is called a Wolfgang, which is MATLAB actually. So it is also going to demonstrate that you can make it even more powerful by giving it access to what we call a plugin that it can use to do calculations that are too complicated. So let's see. I have asked it to explain the reasoning rather than giving the result. So now it is trying to explain step by step how it is understanding the problem and how it is going to solve it. So it is computing the natural growth, immigration. I gave it per month, but it was smart enough to convert it to annual. I gave it the immigration per year. Now it is even outputting the equations that it is going to use to do the population projection. Now it has given the different equations. Now it is this is the formula that is going to use. And now it is going to connect to the MATLAB plugin to do the calculation rather than doing it itself because it has access to plugin. If it has access to a plugin, it knows what it's good for, and it can call it when it needs the plugin to do some calculations. So now it is connecting to the MATLAB. And as you can see, all these decisions are taken by the large language model. I only gave the problem and I'm just watching. It is taking decisions by itself. Now it tries to connect to MATLAB and it discovers that there are some reserved symbols that it shouldn't use in the formula. So now it is trying to change the equation again so as to avoid using some reserved symbols of the plugin. It is smart enough to know that it is the I and the E that should be changed to avoid any conflict. So now it is going to try again to run the calculation. This is what we call zero-shot reasoning capability. When you give just a problem to the large language model, it can do some thinking, I would say, some logical thinking to break down the program into smaller problems and then aggregate the result, just like a person is reasoning, which is quite amazing. It has this analytical capacity to break down a problem into smaller problems, to solve them one by one, and then put the result together to have the complex solution. So it has tried a second time, still no luck. It has to change the course again. Okay, I hope this time it's going to work. It has already tried it twice. The calculation is taking some time. Okay, now it worked. So it is going to give me the results, how the population is supposed to evolve. So this is another amazing capability of large language models that people need to know to demystify what they can do, because they can do things that you don't suspect they can do. And it's good to know the tools that are available to you, because you can use them to improve your productivity. When you have error in a code, you can give it to GPT-4 and say there is an error, a bug in this code. Can you try to figure out what is wrong? So now I'm asking it to plot the population growth, just to test if it really knows what it is saying. It is connecting again with the MATLAB plugin. So it can also connect to the internet. There is a plugin for internet. So if you ask something, it is not in the knowledge of ChatGPT, it can go and search it in the internet. This is an improvement from the initial version. The first version didn't have access to internet. But now with the plugin, it has access to internet. So it can go and make some search and bring you some new knowledge. Maybe some things that happened last month. So it has this capability now. It didn't have it a few months ago. I think it was added in March 2023. So now it has built the graph in MATLAB. Now it is showing me the graph, you see. The population. And it can also explain. I have also asked it to make a bar graph of the projection. So let me go a little faster so that you see the result. You see, it was able also to do a bar chart. So this is another capability of the large language models that you need to know. So this is what we call the zero-shot reasoning capability. And we can imagine the different applications of this in economics. Let me pass this step. So now I'm just imagining that instead of a MATLAB plugin, we have developed what we call a GTAP or GANs plugin. So you can ask the large language model a question about economic policy. What would happen if I do this? Then it is going to connect to the plugin to run the model to get the result and then to explain to you exactly what is going to happen. So you see the amazing possibility, but we don't have these kind of plugins yet. But we need to know this is something that we can develop. So if we really want this kind of plugin, we can invest in developing plugins that ChatGPT or any other large language model can use to answer some complex economic question by connecting to models. So now that we are finished with what we call the zero-shot capability, you are going to see now what we call the few shots capability. This is a research article where they are explaining that the large language model can learn by few shots. Few shots means you give a few examples of what you want to do, just like you are explaining a kid. I want you to give an example, and then it will learn how to do it. So what I'm going to try to do is a classification. I want to be able to give a text to the large language model. It is going to read the text, and then it is going to tell me according to what the text is saying. Are we seeing some inflation? Are we seeing some deflation? Or there's nothing at all about prices in the text? So I am giving a situation and the impact, a situation and the impact, a situation and the impact, so that it learns what I want it to do. This is what we call the few shot example. And once I have given it the examples, it will learn by itself, and it is going to solve the problem by itself. So you see, I have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 examples, including one that is null. So if there's nothing about prices, I want it to say null instead of trying to force. So now I'm copying this text and pasting it, giving it to GPT-3 as a model. So I'm explaining This is what I want you to do. See these as examples. And you will see that at the end of the example, I have put one situation where I didn't tell the impact. So I am going to let it complete it by itself to see if it has understood, if it has really understood the problem. The latest situation is a situation in which, let me see. Okay, this is the null situation where there's nothing about prices. So the taxes are reduced. There are some bugs, but it doesn't matter. We will see if it is going to understand what I wanted to reply when I give it this text. And you see it has understood correctly what I want. Impact on CPI, the consumer price index, will go down. So now I'm going to give it another example to see if it has really learned the task. That's what you call a few shot learning. So there is war in the neighboring countries. It is replying consumer price index will go up. So now I'm going to take a longer text, an article, a news article, and I'm going to input and see now if it is capable of doing the classification. So this is about crisis in the Sahel. We are expecting it to have positive impact on prices, but let's see if ChatGPT can figure it out. You see? The consumer price index will go up. Now I'm going to copy an article about football. It has nothing to do with prices, and see if it understood also what I mean by null. Null means it has nothing to do with the prices. It has understood. So this is an amazing capability. Now you can give it any news article and it will tell you whether these news are about inflation, deflation, or not about price. So you can use it as a monitoring system. If you are scrapping news online, you can use ChatGPT to classify them. In this country, there are a lot of articles hinting about high inflation. In this one, low inflation. And as you can see, I have developed a classification model, and you see it, how much time did it take? Less than 5 minutes, and I only give it 10 examples, and I was able to develop a classification model. So you can imagine the power of a large language model, because in other programs, maybe you can take 1 week developing a code that can do such classification, but with the large language model, only 10 examples, it knows how to do it. So you see how amazing large language models are in terms of their capacity to learn something. You give an example, you don't even need to say, you just give the example, they will just copy, and they will do exactly, and they learn very fast. So you can imagine all the application, you can imagine all kind of situation where you wanted to do some complex tasks, you give 3 examples and it knows, it will do it by itself. So you can do price monitoring, you can do depth monitoring. So now there's another application. The fact that they are going to change the way we interact with knowledge sources because they are chatbots. So you can take a knowledge source and you can talk to it like you are talking to a person. So for example, I am going to take some document about the system of economic and environmental accounting. Then I'm going to turn it into a chatbot and I'm going to discuss with the documents like I'm discussing with a person, which is quite amazing. This is another capability of large language model because they can read a text and then you can ask them questions about this text. So let's see how it goes. So now I have put the different PDF, I have uploaded them, it has parsed them, and now it is telling me this is what I have in the documents. These are some questions that I can ask, but I can ask actually any question that I want. So I can just ask the first question and see how smart it is. So you see, this is a different way of interacting with knowledge, which is not the traditional way where you'll have to read all the documents when you want to find something, and you'll have to use some set that are very cumbersome. But here you can directly ask your question. You are just talking to a person and a new expert in system of economic and environmental accounting. And you will see the reply that it is going to give us. So the answers are very well constructed. There are almost ECAs, I would say. There are almost ECAs. So just to accelerate, I have another example where I have used the system of national accounts. Let's just show the last example so that we stay in the time. So here it's about the beyond GDP. You know, the beyond GDP is a debate that is ongoing. There are a lot of documents about why GDP is not a good indicator of well-being, why we need to go beyond GDP. I have taken a lot of these documents. I have compiled them as one PDF. I have given them to the large language model and said, turn it into a chatbot. Now I'm asking it questions. Wow, what is natural capital and why is it important to factor in economic decision making? And you see the reply. It is important because it represents a significant portion of total wealth in many countries, particularly low-income countries. You can ask him to help you make a speech about raising the awareness of people on the importance of natural capital, and it is going to give you something. In general, it is good, even though you will need to edit it. And what you need to know, it is not hallucinating, because here you are really asking it to reply based on your documents. It is not taking knowledge somewhere else or imagining. It is not hallucinating. It is just giving you what is content in your PDF document. So this problem of hallucination, this is one way you can solve it. So I know there are amazing capability of large language models. Now let's see what is the next thing. So here it is still the chart. These are ECA knowledge products that I have turned into a chatbot. And then I have asked it, are there cases of success stories on fiscal policies? So it told me there are 10 countries, and I'm asking which countries are the 10 countries. So now it is telling me the 10 countries are Angola, Benin, Chad, Ethiopia, and so on and so on. So now I can ask a follow-up question. Tell me more about the case of Ghana, because you mentioned Ghana, and you will see how it is going to reply. So now I'm really interacting with the knowledge like I'm interacting with an expert. So this is how the large language model are going to change the way we are going to interact with knowledge. And as I said it before, we are a knowledge organization. It is very important for us to make people interact with the knowledge that we generate in the easiest way. So imagine that any product that we produce, we can turn it into a chatbot and people can ask it questions. They don't even need to ask us. They can just ask our document. But of course, we need to be sure what we are doing, because large language models, they can be dangerous. So we need to know what we are doing. So let's move to the next. I think I'm almost done. So here it's about the capacity of a large language model to learn. If you look at the graph on the right, you will see that at the beginning, when the model is small, it's very cumbersome. People say, no, this can never beat me because it is so cumbersome. But what you don't know is that this model, there is some point where they start learning very fast. So this is the article where this is explained. There is some point they start learning so fast that now it's almost scary. At the beginning, you were thinking that it couldn't do anything, and then suddenly, boom, it started going up, and it started becoming a champion. So this is scary. This is scary because they are learning things much faster than us. So we never know. We never know in next year what they will be capable of doing. Even though even today they are worrying us. So the questions that we want to ask also are the large language model dangerous, or why are they dangerous, I would say. They are dangerous because of what we call the emergent properties. So if you read here, what is explained is that when the model had a few hundred parameters, it couldn't solve complex problems. But when the model had billions of parameters, we discovered that it could solve very complex problems. And this is not something that you have planned. This is what is dangerous. The model has learned something that we did not plan for it to learn. And we discovered it by surprise. So you can imagine what it means. We don't actually control it. You know, large language models, they learn by example. They learn by, you give them some example, just as I show you in the few shots. You give them example and they learn how to do. but they can learn something else in the data, not what you intended for them to learn. And this is where the danger is. They can learn things that you are not even suspecting. And if they can do things that you are not suspecting, when you are going to put them in a different situation, maybe they are going to do something that you are not expecting them to do. So you see where the danger is coming from. It is a capacity to learn things that you didn't want them to learn and that you didn't even know that they have learned. So you can imagine if you have put this artificial intelligence on a very critical system, like dangerous weapons control. And then they have learned things that we didn't know, and they start doing things that we don't know. This is where the danger is. And because those who are developing the artificial intelligence, they saw this problem. That's why they say we need to be very cautious. Maybe we should pause the development of AI until we really understand the risk. Maybe you heard about this call of the different companies. We should really stop the development of AI because this is dangerous. This thing can go out of control because we don't control the things that it learns, so we don't know what it's learning. We don't. Maybe it knows some things that we don't suspect now. Even now, it knows things that we don't suspect because we never asked. So you see. So normally this is the end of my presentation. I just wanted to show a few cases also, a few applications that I didn't have the time to discuss, but it's still good to mention them because these are possibilities of using large language models in the work of ECA, particularly in economic and in statistics. So just 2 minutes more to explain these last possibilities, and I will give the floor back to Mola. So one of the things is their capacity to act as interface between different models. You have seen how they can use a plugin. So you can use them to become controller of different models and coordinate them. So you can use it in environmental or ecosystem services where you have model from science, you have model from statistics that need to talk to each other. Maybe you can use large language model to do this control. This is what you are doing with areas, but you are doing it with very complex code. So maybe large language model can do it easily. There is also the possibility of doing some fact checking. So you see this is a plugin. I found it on internet. And then you can also transform text into data because any text that they take, they change it into vector. So now text is data. And if text is data, you can put text even in a model. So maybe you can do text to statistical table, why not? And then you can use it to do the analysis of discourse of organization. You can do it to detect some novelty in text, simple and complex question answering, data augmentation. And these two last questions are very important for us as statisticians. The first thing is, can we start using chatbots to search for statistical data? Because it makes it easier rather than going and navigating and not finding the data. I can ask, where can I find this data? If the data are there, they will say you can find them here. And if they are not there, it say, no, sorry, these data are not published yet. And then also in statistical dissemination, maybe we will need to change our standard because now we have programs that can understand text. And if you have programs that can understand text, maybe we have the possibility of making our statistical table richer by adding text. We are already doing it, but now we can do it in a more significant way. So these are a few applications, possible applications of large language model in economics and in statistics. So I hope through the question, we will find even more application. So thank you. Over to you, Mola.
Thank you very much, Isufu, for this excellent presentation. I think the discussion will not stop here. Isufu will be asked to make presentation on specific examples you provided on the various works of ECA. Colleagues, all innovations in earlier times mainly affected unskilled workers. Now this AI, with the AI, I think the impact is coming to the knowledge workers like ourselves, economists, statisticians, content creators, programmers, writers, artists, and so on and so forth. So, but the impact is not only on the negative side, but it also has impact on improving our productivity, as elaborated earlier by Yusufu. I think I remember the Microsoft CEO said in the last Davos meeting, he was giving an anecdote and said that the new AI tool, which called GitHub Copilot, can improve productivity up to 80% to programmers. You know, you can imagine how we can improve our productivity in the various work we are engaged. And as Oliver said in his introduction, we need to look at this with cautions. Policies, you know, governance has to be there. Ethical issue consideration has to be there. And Yusuf also mentioned the hallucination of AI. I think that is also real. You know, so it can be delusional sometimes due to various reasons. But, you know, that will not really deter us not to using AI. The impact is real, and it's really helping us to improve our productivity as a commission and also in our professional, individual professional work. From our side, I think we are also embarking on dissemination. Yusufu, I think you right on the spot. That's what we allude to, you know, especially on census results dissemination. We should not use the traditional way of disseminating results. We need to really move and expand using AIs and other innovations. I think with that note, let me, we have two speakers, Dr. Addisu Gazahang from Addis Ababa University. I would like to introduce him briefly. He's an assistant professor in computational data science program at Addis Ababa University. He teaches applied machine learning and deep learning, high performance computing, big data analytics, and data science. Addisu research focuses on the application of AI on climate. I think that's an exciting topic. Addisu holds a PhD from the University of Trieste and also worked as postdoctoral research in Paris, France. So I'm going to ask him a couple of questions to Addisu, also to focus his interventions to this panel. Dr. Addisu, welcome again to this discussion, to the webinar. In your view, how do the emerging capabilities of large language models and deep learning models influence statistics and economics? And the other question is, what is your perspective on the effect of emerging abilities of large language models and deep learning on the academic training and the university curricula? Over to you, Addisu.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Molla, for the nice introduction. And Mr. Yusufu, also, I really enjoyed his presentation, and he directly went to the application side, and it was really interesting. So coming back to my question, like how do they impact statistics and economics?
Addisu, we don't see you. If you can switch on your video, I would love to see you.
Okay, I'm from the conference.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you. Yes, okay. Yes. Now you can also switch off if you want. Yeah.
So coming back to my, can I switch off?
Yes, you can.
So the language models have the potential to influence or revolutionize economic research and statistics by improving productivity, and they can also automate tasks, and we can also generate new insights. So language models can assist with tasks such as writing, background research, data analysis, coding, and also they can assist us with mathematical derivation. So these tasks used to be time consuming and affecting our efficiency significantly. So with the introduction of these language models, we can significantly improve our productivity. We can also use the language models to automate our tasks, such as we can generate reports and summarize data, and we can also analyze text. So these repetitive tasks can be easily automated using language models. Language models can generate new insights. As Yusufu indicated in its presentation, sometimes we'll get a new insight from the data. Like we have millions of parameters, even billions of parameters. They are interacting among themselves, and they will produce new insights that cannot be identified or visible by humans. So language models can generate new insights by analyzing large amount of data. So these are the three things that I think language model will affect economics and statistics mainly. So going to the second question about how the language models affect the training and university curricula. It's I think it's a very debatable point, because it will change how we are seeing or how we are teaching in this new technology. So these emerging abilities of large language models and deep learning models have a potential impact to academic training and university curricula. One of the I will go to the advantage lab. One of the advantages is it can help teachers to identify areas where students are struggling. So they can identify the students like with different background. So it can make the teaching more personalized. So instead of giving the same thing for all the students, the language models or the AI models can enable us to deliver a personalized learning. So this will affect or improve the student learning. I mean, traditionally, we are teaching, assuming that students have similar background, but we can identify different background and we can deliver the content differently for the students. This is very important and enable all the students to get the most out of it. And also, large language models can assist researchers in performing academic knowledge creation tasks such as writing, editing, reviewing data, dataset creation, and curation. This is critical. I mean, if for someone who is doing research, this is, I mean, it will take much of our time. So we do without going to adding knowledge, most of the time we spend most of our time by doing background review and some editing. All these tasks can be assisted using language models. So knowledge creation is becoming more efficient. So with this can increase the capacity of researchers to deliver research and generate rigorous, impactful research. So that means it will enhance academic knowledge creators. So more knowledge can be created. So instead of inventing the wheel, researchers can focus on new things, on something that will generate. So this is also a very important issue that language models provide. And large language models can lead to new approach to teaching and learning. And this is the way we see the development of new competencies and skills started to emerge. So there will be a different way of evaluating competencies. So a new way of competencies and skills will emerge with the help of the large language models. So AI-assisted learning with large language model has a potential to enhance student learning, improve academic research, and transform the way that higher education delivered. So in general, to develop new competencies and skills to effectively use and interact with these models, the universities need to update their curriculum. They need to teach new courses such as machine learning, deep learning, and big data analytics. Towards that direction, Addis Ababa University, especially computational data science program, updated the curriculum from computational science to computational data science. We used to do analysis or research using only computational science, but nowadays we updated our curriculum and we started to use data science or machine learning tools to address or solve scientific problems. And this has been successful and it's been running for the last 3 years. We have master's students who already started to graduate from this program, and we solved different problems, problems related with healthcare, climate prediction, and others. So once they have these skills, they can go to different problems and they will start to address. And next year, we are planning to launch a PhD program in computational data science. We are hopeful to collaborate with you guys and with different research unit and industry to solve the current problems. Thank you very much. Back to you, Molla.
Thank you very much, Dr. Addisu, for this excellent intervention. I think Dr. Addisu talked about the impact on economics and statistics, and also the huge impact it has on the learning processes and the curricula, and what Addis Ababa University is doing in that regard. I think I heard from one of the MOOC, the Massive Open Online Curriculum, known Khan Academy. I think they're exploring AI, actually developing AI, especially the large language models, to improve on the learning processes. But that comes with responsibility of use and ethics as well. I think that there is a great deal in this technology to be used ethically in the language learning processes. And Dr. Addisu also talked about, the huge dimensions, variables, this large language models is using to process text, languages, inputs. I think we used to have this principal component analysis and statistics. We are trying to reduce the dimensions mainly, not increase dimensions, obviously due to various reasons. But I think with this capacity, it will help us to improve on our data analysis, statistical analysis, and so on. And there is one term actually we say, in data collection validation, we say trust but verify. But I think in AI, there is a term called don't trust but verify. The hallucination, and also in some cases the incorrect facts coming from AI should be verified by humans before they are used. So with that note, let me ask the second panelist, Dr. Ashannafi. He holds a PhD and currently serves as a senior advisor to the minister at the Ministry of Innovation and Technology. He has an extensive experience in the field of innovation and technology. Dr. Ashannafi also worked as head of data analytics and application development at the Digital Transformation Program at the Ministry of Innovation and Technology. He led a team of professionals in developing and implementing machine learning and AI solutions to derive digital transformation across Ethiopia, across the ministry and the country. Dr. Addisu, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions as well. From your standpoint, does AI pose a significant risk? Do you believe it needs a strong regulation? And if so, how should society approach regulating AI to mitigate potential risks and harness the potentials, the great potentials, and the greater good? And additionally, I would like also ask you, how can Africa make the best out of this AI revolution? Over to you, Dr. Ashannafi. Dr. Ashannafi, are you okay? Can you hear me, Dr. Ashannafi? I don't seem getting hold of Dr. Ashannafi. I see him connected as a guest. Dr. Ashannafi, can you hear us? Can you unmute yourself if you are hearing me? Otherwise, I think let's open the floor for question and answer and discussion until Dr. Ashannafi comes back and can able to communicate. Okay, so the floor is open, colleagues. I think we are taking a bit of time here today, but I'd like to open the floor for question and answer. You can also post your questions on the chat box. I think I saw a couple of questions from colleagues earlier. And there was from Gilbert, he was asking, Isufu, can you clarify the kind of data sources for building models found in countries? Where do we find such data, or how do we identify these data sources? I think that is a question.
Sorry, I'm back.
Okay, Dr. Ashannafi. Okay. So
it was there. Okay. I was
Okay.
muted by from the organizer. That is why the reason.
Oh, I'm sorry for that. Sorry for
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the warm introduction. Basically, coming back to the ideas, I think what we heard from the presentation it was given earlier, and Dr. Adisu's just brief discussion about the issue. The AI has just brought a new way of understanding the life as we know it. It have just given us the capacity to provide, to use the very unstructured data that we have around, like in a huge amount, and it can easily turn it into like some kind of structured way, so that we can use it for almost in every sector to increase productivity and basically efficiency in production whatsoever. It has just increased on almost in every aspect of our life, every productivity capabilities we have. That means basically AI have come with a very huge and substantial capability to insert, enforce change on almost every aspect of our life. And basically it is very difficult to say the AI and associated LLM capabilities are just some sort of harmful, or they have some bad things they come up with along the way, but they do provide us with a major capability to increase the economic productivities, the social and the political resources they provide us to stabilize our governance, to modernize our way of life. It is very fascinating, and it is huge. However, one of the most difficult concerns that brought along with the AI capabilities that we're witnessing is that I think, especially to countries like us, to the continent of Africa, with the existing digital divide, with the existing very limited awareness about the digital world, with the limited digital literacy we have already, it will be very much concerning that to be able to compete with all the world, so that Africa can have its share of benefit from the AI revolution that is going on is very much concerning one. I think one of the very important challenges associated with this, the AI capabilities, is that there is a fear that it might only benefit the few, as it only boosts those kind of workers, those kind of people that have specific skills, to skills that can be augmented with the AI capabilities. So there might be a huge concern that there will be a huge divide between those who have and those who haven't, those who have certain kind of skills and those who do not have those skills. And this will eventually end up creating with a huge income inequality, a huge impact on employability, as the automation that associated with the AI is going to have a huge impact on continent like ours that have a huge amount of less educated, less exposed young population. And it is a very hugely concerning, one of the concerning challenges. The other is that our infrastructure problem associated with the data culture where we already have is also a bit of a concern. Most of the AI capabilities require a very stable infrastructural capabilities and a very organized data culture, which we didn't have as in any way that can benefit our economy, our societies as required, as desired. So the data culture and the infrastructure problem is another concern that's associated with the AI revolution in where Africa as a whole lacks the readiness to use and manipulate the benefits that are associated with the AI revolution that we are witnessing right now. And basically, what we are trying to do here in Ethiopia as a ministry or as a nation is that we have crafted policies that give an emphasis to this AI and other emerging technologies, so that specifically we are striving to establish an innovation ecosystem, a digital innovation ecosystem that gives due consideration to this emerging AI capabilities and other emerging technological revolutions that are witnessing right now. So the AI is giving us an answer to very complex questions. We have been complaining that the 21st century has been associated with an information overflow. So that now with the AI capabilities, this an information overflow has transformed into some kind of organized knowledge that can be used to support and facilitate productivity along almost all economic, political, and other sectors. So as a government, we have been trying to educate our policies along the emerging, the upcoming AI capabilities also. Most importantly, we are focusing on building an innovation ecosystem where young and new emerging startups, innovators are familiarized with the upcoming technological trends, and they utilize this AI and LLM capabilities to insert those the inspired changes and the new innovation capabilities that we are seeking. We are trying to give an extra emphasis to this innovation ecosystem, but however, like I tried to put it, the awareness problem, the awareness gap and the digital divide that is associated with our continent is going to be a huge problem by making it AI only to serve the benefit of the few instead of serving the wider area, the wider public, and the wider society of the continent. I think all in all, AI is going to benefit Africa in a major way, I believe so. But we need those regulations that can guide us. The benefits that are going to be gained from the AI capabilities are just to outweigh all those drops or those challenges that might be associated with the AI revolution that we're witnessing. So basically, we need regulations very much, right? And those regulations are mostly needs to be associated with capacity building, awareness creation, and giving the chance Africa requires as a result of the digital divide. It has already along this sector. So basically, we need AI, but I think we need some kind of strong regulation that is more of inclined to capacity building awareness. So basically, to not waste too much time, I think these are my main issues that I'm attempting to talk. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ashanafi, for this excellent insights. Yes, the access and regulation, we need to bridge the divide you talked about, and not only the digital divide, also the AI divide. So the policy considerations in Ethiopia you talked about, I think that these are really something we learn from. So I think with that note, let me again open the floor for question and answer. Colleagues, I'm going to ask, I take it in 2 rounds, give the 3 questions first, and then allow panelists and the speakers to respond. And I think if we have more time, I'll give more rounds. So let me check who raised. I think let me take from the floor first. But I hope, okay, I see Thierry and Alex in that order. Thierry, please unmute yourself and ask your questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mola. And congratulations for Isufu and the 2 respondents, and congratulations for Oliver for this opportunity. I think it's a timely opportunity. And thank you very, very much for this. I'm from the African Institute for Economic Development and Planning, a training institution or training arm of ECA. So I'm not going to ask a question, but I just want to make a straightforward proposal. This should not be limited to ECA, because with the large language models offer immense opportunity for economic transformation. But it's a learning in progress, but we need to harness this learning. So the idea is that it would be good that we open this to the member state and have a kind of joint training on focusing on a very specific aspect, looking at why not ChatGPT, LLM, and IPRT, see exactly how we can merge the two and assist member states to get the best of it. So I'm just tabling this for Oliver by saying that it would be good that EDEP work or collaborate with ECAs to look at all the various series of capacity building that we can offer to the member state. Now, with regard to my comment, as you have rightly raised it on in many aspects, we know that the LLM learn from the vast amount of text data available on the internet. Some of them are not yet in internet, ChatGPT, GPT-4, and so on. They are not yet, but others are on internet, which may contain, as you say, the biases, the misinformation, offensive content, and so on and so on. But understanding the computation, I will say the computational requirement, interpretability, constraint data bias, and ethical consideration is crucial when we are incorporating this local language in the planning of development process. That one, I think the challenges are there, but we can handle them gradually because it's at the beginning. We are at the beginning of the process. A ChatGPT was launched in December 2022, and Microsoft is investing billions to improve it, to ensure that it can link it to his chatbot and so on and so on. For that one, no problem. But the issue when it comes to ECA is that we should pay attention and say that the challenges are there, the data bias are there. We should look at how we can handle this. But my main question is towards the university, whether and how higher education should react. Because we can think about plagiarism. I don't know, since Addis Ababa University is there, do you think that we can promote this in university? What will be the impact of the performance of the student or those preparing the thesis? Over to you, Mola.
Thank you, Thierry. I'll ask Yusufu and colleagues to respond, but let me ask Alex also to ask his question. Alex, could you be very brief and also ask a question? I think that's
audible.
Okay. We don't see you, Alex, but you can ask your question, please. Go ahead.
Am I audible? I can see.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate for the speakers. It's really mind-opening about the AI revolution. I'm Alex from Kenya. I'm a data analyst by practice. And what I'm curious about is technology revolution has come with a lot of opportunities and self-reliance, self-employment for young people, especially here in Kenya. People really utilize platforms that come out of technology to make money, be it TikTok, be it Facebook, although those are social applications. The way this AI, generative AI is evolving is it is an enabler of a tool making our work easier or efficient, promoting efficiency, or even taking some of the jobs for it to do on our behalf. I was wondering if there are foreseeable economic opportunities at an individual level. For my organization, they can leverage on it to do its tasks very efficiently, or I can leverage it where I work to do my data analysis or to do my research, to make a presentation. But at that granular level, individual level, how can it be of foreseeable benefit for people to use this tool to make money or to transform their lives without being that in government or corporate sector I mean, that is my thinking. Is there some foreseeable economic future that can trickle down to an individual level, just like people can use TikTok or YouTube? Yeah, just to be brief.
Thank you, Alex, for that. Let me get the third question from the chat box. I see a question from Anjana, our colleague. Okay, I think let me read the question. I don't seem to see it. It was actually about the authentication of large language models and the database. I think, Yusufu, if you have access to the question, you can read it yourself. And Gilbert, can you clarify the kind of data sources for building models found in countries? Where do you find such data, or how do you identify these data sources? Relate to this, the topic, the LLM, and then respond. So Yusufu, back to you. Hope you've heard the questions. And if you have any response, please. I'm also asking Oliver also to respond to Thierry's intervention. I think comment, that was pretty much a comment, and also a request for collaboration. So I would like also the director to respond to that. First, Yusufu.
Thank you, Mola. So let me try to respond for the question about the sources of data. Yes, I will start by mentioning that we are already working with some young statisticians that we have asked to try to identify data sources in their countries that we can use to do this machine learning application and see how we can compute some socioeconomic indicators for improving the SDGs. We have already sent them an invitation to make some proposal because we know that the data are there in the country. It's just a matter of finding them and being able to find the right model. So we actually have an abundance of data. What we don't have are structured data, but we have a lot of unstructured data. You know, if you are asking someone some question in a very structured way, he will be bored very quickly because it is structured. But if you ask the person to tell you his life story, you know, he can go for hours and hours and he will tell you 10 times more information that you need. So because of that, we have a lot of unstructured sources. For example, if you look at the news, online news, this is text. We can use it as data. If you look at the radio shows, you know, we have programs that can translate the radio show into text, and then we can use it. And even in different languages, there were some experiments that were doing with the UN data pulse, I think, for translating in different language from audio to do some computation of socioeconomic indicators. You have the television, of course, you know that transformers, they can even analyze images to counting people, to following them, there are a lot of things that you can do. We have mobile phone, satellite imagery. We have the government reports, a lot of reports with text, little data, but now we can even use the text. We have mobile tracking data. We have online catalog, Facebook, Twitter, and even the reports that are written by project. You know, when you run a project, you are supposed at the end to do some monitoring and evaluation report. And these reports are lessons learned. And these lessons learned, maybe they can be useful for someone doing the same thing in another continent. And large language model can help also in doing this. Then you have also administrative data, of course, custom data, police data, weather data, and we are also taking care of digitalization. And we know that with digitalization, we are going to have even more data. And digitalization, we have rather highly structured data. It's not unstructured, it's more highly structured. So the data abundance is there, but how are we going to use it while avoiding the risks? This is the question. And one of the problem of being able to use the data is what you call the problem of model adaptation. Because once you have trained a model on certain type of data, you can use what we call transfer learning. So you do just an additional training and then it will be able to do something else. You can imagine a model like a student. You take a student, if you want to have someone who is expert in, I don't know, in piloting, you are not going to take the person at birth and then you are going to learn the person everything it is too much. But you are going to give the person some general education when he arrives at college level, then you take the person and you specialize in. It is exactly the same thing with artificial intelligence. You can train some general models. Then when you want to do some specific task, you train them on this specific task, and we call it adaptation. There is a problem of the computing power, of course, because, you know, we say billions of parameters. Billions of parameters is not on your laptop that you can run that model, but the research is going very fast, and there are some discoveries that were made from mathematical matrix factorization, where they are showing that you can actually reduce the number of parameters when you are fine-tuning your model. So now they can reduce it to the level where it can run even on a PC. So the research is going very fast, and there are some discoveries that are showing that now you should be able to run a language model on your PC, even though it will not be as performant as a big model. It is very close if you know how to do the fine-tuning and the adaptation, and there are a lot of also adaptation methods. The second problem, of course, is a privacy issue, the confidentiality. We know how this is a big problem. We are facing what we call also data nationalism. Countries don't want some data to go outside the country because of this confidentiality issue. This is a problem for doing the analysis, because if you want to make a joint analysis of all African countries, somehow you need to bring this data in one place to do the analysis. This is a current model, even though there are models where you don't take the data. You can go and make the computation where the data is, but this is research. This is research. For example, when you are facial recognition, you know, when you are using your phone to do some facial recognition, when it takes your photo, do you want your photo?
You are
okay.
Going deeper and deeper to the subject, I think, in the interest of time.
So
I would like to ask you to respond briefly, and yeah, we can allow other questions.
So we have the scientific validation, which is a problem, of course, for statistician. When we compute indicator, we need to make sure that the methodology is sound. We have also, we can use synthetic data, and there's the issue of the monetization of the data. This is the whole other, and the public cooperation. So in summary, we have a lot of data. We just need to know how to use it. Now, concerning the ethical consideration and the risk of large language model, we totally agree. We have seen that large language model and dangerous. But for me, I'm thinking about, for example, internet network. Once the internet came, once the network came, you know how dangerous connecting yourself to the world is. You know that when a hacker managed to come into your organization, or the damages you can have. There are some companies who will find billions and billions because they have some data breaches. So we know it's dangerous, but can we live without it? We need to think like this. It is like there are a lot of things that we know is dangerous, but somehow we have to live. So we just need to find a way to regulate it, because if everybody is using it and you are not using it, you see, you are out of the game. You are increasing the digital divide. So yes, we need to pay attention, but I don't think we can afford to say that we are not going to use this new AI tool. Otherwise, we will go outside. We will disconnect ourselves from the world. And for plagiarism also, there are a lot of solutions that are proposed, but there are some rules. The universities are thinking of how to even cite GPT. I think in the upper, there is now a way of citing GPT. If you have used GPT, you cite it. This is what I have used it to do. So there are some solutions, but maybe those from the academia are better placed. And now concerning the employment opportunities, I think it's in Africa that we are not seeing employment opportunities, but there are a lot of people using ChatGPT to make money. For example, I have shown you this graph where you can pass your text, and then it will bring you the knowledge graph. It's actually someone who has programmed it, and people are programming things like this and using it for money. So imagine that now you can plug ChatGPT to your local language. You can see how many possibilities it's open. It's open a lot of possibilities, from taking what people are saying in their language, querying, transforming, all these things. So there are opportunities of monetization. We just need. Another opportunity of monetization is what we call the data labeling. You know, data, they need a lot of label data, and this has to be done by human. And this is a low-paid job, so maybe young African can also take these data labeling jobs. For the big companies that are in the US, we can do the labeling here for them at a very low price and send them the data. This is also one way you can use it. But there are also the risks, of course. There are risks. There are some jobs that will disappear. We know it, but we need to adapt. That's what I want to say. Back to you, Mola. Sorry, I forgot the question from
Thank you,
Antenna because I didn't
for
see
that.
it.
I would like to ask Dr. Ashanafi or Dr. Disu to respond on the economic benefits, if you have any. Otherwise, I'll open the floor for another set of questions. Dr. Ashanafi, do you want to say something on the economic benefits?
Yeah, basically, the AI have countless economic opportunities, economic benefits. But the problem is that identifying the scamming problem also associated with this economic benefit will significantly increase. The security vulnerabilities and associated things will be very much a concern. And so that basically it requires to leverage the economic capabilities that the AI evolution is providing us. It requires to have a good regulative environment, a good technical, especially security related, just technical environment is a very much necessity. As even with the existing digital infrastructure, digital environment just that we are living, we are being very vulnerable and prone to such scamming, such deception and fraudulent activities. However, having that on mind, the economic benefit associated with this AI upcoming, the coming AI revolution is very much huge. And as a ministry, we have been working with BPOs so that we can take some kind of our share in the global just digital employment market. And with this AI revolution, it is very much likely that we are going to see a major increase in employability. But the problem is, as we have mentioned, there might be a good chance that only the few will benefit from such evolution, as most of our society is lacking with the AI basic understanding, and there is a very huge AI technology related divide between the advanced world, the developed world, and the developing world like ours. So yes, there is very much a good chance that we can make more money with these AI capabilities, but it also requires a care, a precaution that it might be very much vulnerable to the scamming, the cybersecurity, and associated problems. So we require a good regulation and a good technical readiness so that we can have that kind of benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ashanafi, for that. Oliver, I see that you responded to Thierry's comment, but do you want to say something?
No more. I think I have. I think that's very clear. Just to give an opportunity for those that would like to ask questions, I think I've responded, and even both on the collaboration and also expanding to the young network of the young economics network as well.
Thank you, Oliver, for that. I see Jairo raised a hand. I'd like to ask Jairo to ask his question. Jairo, good to see you again. It's been a while.
Thank you, Mola. It's been quite a while, and good afternoon from this other side of the Atlantic, of the big ocean. And I'm happy to see that Oliver is driving the process very vigorously, and I think this is one of the things that we need. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah. It's something that we need, and I just noticed that the AU is missing in action. We need all hands on board. So these initiatives, okay, which is the beginning of a new era, and the issue of the IA, I call it I, is both an opportunity as well as a risk. It's a huge risk, and sometimes I feel afraid for the things that the IA can do. For example, in the process of reinforcement learning, in which IAs take over responsibility for doing things that the agent, that the people giving them the instructions, they can intend to disobey. And I think there has been a study in war strategies that the drones could be sent to strike and destroy enemy targets. And if an instruction is given because someone realizes that the instruction to destroy was mistaken, the drone would refuse to carry out that call back, and in fact would come back and kill the person that has given the instruction. So it becomes an independent agent of its own. And I think that's a very risky part of it. But before I go into that hallucination part of it, we talk a lot about data, putting in the data. For example, the example of population growth was premised on parameters that exist, including migration. Do we have the data? Or shall we make up the data and put into the system, which would result in the system hallucinating? So the issue of data quality and data comprehensiveness from which the systems learn is something that has not really been addressed. In other countries, yes, they do have good quality data. But in Africa, the quality of the data is still a huge problem. And what would happen is that because the system that is an algorithm, that is code, that is a program to do calculations, we would put in data that is of poor quality and would come out accordingly because the systems are learning from that data. They will come up with results that do not correspond to reality. The first speaker talked about putting the code, which was generated was text or speech, to code. And it was put into R programming and didn't run. And the programmer realized that it didn't run and asked back to have the correction done. So it presupposes that the person asking the question for the solution as a technical person, okay, and this is where we're using the IA as facilitators that would reduce the work of weeks to a question of few minutes, is knowledgeable and will be able to say, no, what I'm getting here doesn't make sense. And I think that aspect of it has to be emphasized, that the people that are using the system know what to expect, because AI systems, okay, are not reasonable in the manner in which human beings are reasonable, okay, and I think that's part of it, and that is that's part of the risk that we would be exposing ourselves to. The other one is the power balance in the use of these systems. I remember going to South Africa in 1994, just after the end of apartheid, and I was teaching. And I found at the university where I was teaching, and I'm not saying which university it was, that they were not using the internet. And in fact, there was a placard outside the computer center which said, we don't serve students. The computer center, which says they don't serve students, okay, said very much. In any case, I worked with young people and we said the internet must be accessible to everybody. It's a tool of empowerment. And we did try, and we got a license and we installed some modules. And the vice chancellor of the university called one day the technical person, to his office and said, can this one be misused? And the person said, yes, it can be misused. And the vice chancellor said, take it away, the connection, take it away. It can only be accessible to the deans of faculties. So this person came overjoyed to me and said, your connection is being taken away because the vice chancellor says so. And I can see what could come, that are big African men, in power are going to say one day that this thing is not good for us, and they would cut the connections. So that is the other risk, okay, that will go back where this instrument of democratization, of liberation, of making access to the ordinary person, because in fact, in a lot of cases, you don't need coding in order to be able to get some of the things, okay? So the control of this, the internet, and the sources through which people can access knowledge so that there is a democratic process in which people can make independent is one of the risks. But I'm very glad that this thing is coming out, is being discussed, except that the African Union is absent in action. The African Union is absent in the Sudan which borders 9 African countries, and I'm talking about the North and the South, which is the heart of Africa, where the River Nile flows, okay? And the Sudan is, when you destabilize the Sudan, because the first example did mention the Sudan, you stabilize Africa, you hit at the heart of Africa, okay? So these are some of the risks that I see. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jairo, for your wisdom and also the issues you've raised. In my view, what happens in ECA happens in AU. That's how I see it, because we all serve for Africa. But you know, we will embark on, I think, always Oliver leadership. Will reach out to other players, stakeholders, including the African Union Commission, to come on board and take this agenda further. Yusufu, very briefly, if you can respond to like in 1 or 2 minutes max, and also Oliver, if you want to say something in response to Jairo's comments and questions. Yusufu, I'd like to, Oliver first.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Oliver.
No, thank you. First of all, I really appreciate to see Jairo here, and really, I'm so delighted to see you after a very long time, and still very strong and contributing to this endeavor in a very, very vigorous manner. So I appreciate the comments, and I think he makes very valid points. That when we are talking about these kinds of models, it has to be applied by a person who understands what needs to be done. First of all, you must know that what you want to get as an outcome of it. You must understand what the question is and what you want to get out of that, which is the objective. It cannot be applied by somebody just for the sake of wanting to apply and get a solution if you don't know and even anticipate what the solution would look like. Because at the end of providing a solution, you should be able to interrogate it with your own thinking. Is this what I think? Is this what I expect? Because like Jairo has said, including what Yusuf said and others that contributed from the Invest of Ethiopia and the other gentlemen, is that this is a facilitator. It doesn't give you, it's not an end in itself. It's just to facilitate you. Instead of taking weeks to do a particular piece of job, you are doing it in minutes. So you must understand that. So that's why it's important to really have a very good statistical background, or as an economist, if it's a research policy, to understand what is anticipated. Otherwise, you could prescribe a policy that will take the country in a different direction altogether because you haven't really interrogated. So it's important, and I want to ride on what Dr. Jairo said. You must know and must take this as a facility to make your work much easier and faster so that you can do other things and even much more. That's one. The point that Dr. Jairo is talking about in terms of AU, we are bringing them on board. In fact, prior to what you said, I sent earlier on an email to make sure that our colleagues from the Africa Development Bank, AU, and the REX, the Regional Economic Group, is to be part of this. And I'm really hoping that in the next session, when we have this conversation, they will be actually on board, because the train has started, and if people don't jump on it now, the fears that you have, I equally fear the same, that if we don't manage this thing properly, it will get us into very serious problems. So I think to be aware of these possible dangers is very important. So I just want to thank Dr. Jairo and, of course, colleagues that have raised and asked several questions, even including the panelists, for really raising this to this level. I know we're running out of time, but I think it's suffice to say that this is the beginning of the conversation, and I think there will be many more kind of this. And in fact, we would like to invite even people like Dr. Jairo, colleagues from the university, to also come and present. We don't want to close this thing to ECA staff only. We want to allow others from from the academia, the civil society, to have this interactive kind of conversation so that we can benefit if we're talking about real transforming this continent. So, Mola, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Oliver. Yusufu, do you have any?
There was nothing. I think there was no additional question. It was more an input that we got from our guest. Over to you.
Okay. I think any intervention from Dr. Adisu, Dr. Ashanafi?
Can I continue?
Okay. I think if there is none, because in the interest of time, we have used like almost 2 hours. I believe today's meeting has shed light on the profound impact of LLM, or the work we do on statistical production processes in particular, from enhancing data analysis, projection, forecasting, automating repetitive tasks, and also generating high quality, insightful contents and outputs. We say big innovation comes with big problems. You can imagine many of the people have lost their lives with electricity, cars, but we did not abandon this innovation. It is actually essential to regulate them, address ethical consideration, as talked by Oliver in the introduction, and also by Dr. Ashanafi and other colleagues, and also the participants, Dr. Jairo. But we need to foster collaboration to harness the benefits as we move forward, colleagues, to harness the power of LLM for the future of statistical analysis, to empower us to unlock new potentials. That's how I see it, to discover more insights and contents. And some say, AI is the new electricity, and as we say, data is the new oil. As electricity paved the way for the Industrial Revolution and shaped the global economy, AI will undoubtedly impact our industries, economies with a comparable impact. The widespread of AI is not without a challenge, as we said earlier. Ethical consideration, regulations, safety issues, infrastructure, I think some put it. We need to pay attention to these issues, and also the potential bias, the hallucination we talked about, security. So it's critical for ECA and member states to invest actually in capacity building, as Dr. Ashanafi said, and also in research, and also how our society use this AI to the best, to benefit the best of its ability, with the privacy and the misuse should be also regulated. I would like once again to thank Oliver for the introduction, the great introduction, Yusufu for an excellent presentation, Dr. Adisu and Dr. Ashanafi for your interventions. Thank you also for your time as well, for your insightful interventions, and participants and colleagues for joining us today. And also let me remind you, we have interesting topics lined up for the next 1 year, and so actually it's go beyond 2024. Please join us every month as we demystify data concepts and bring new topics that will impact our work. And also please reminded to fill out the evaluation form provided by Angela to see how we are doing. So with that note, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you. Have a good rest of the day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And
Thank you. Bye bye.